Thank you so much, Alistair and Ed, for welcoming me to be here today, and thank all of you for being here this morning. And I'm especially excited to be speaking with you because as a city, we need your help. As the data practitioners and data scientists who are at the forefront of this revolution, all of our efforts are not, if you are all not part of them and not helping us to expand them and help to really take advantage of all of the resources that the city of New York is trying to put at your disposal. So just to give a little bit of context, I'm the Chief Digital Officer for the city of New York. I'm new to government. Before this, I was in the private sector doing citizen journalism, involved in peer-to-peer technology. And just about 8 months ago, I started in this role and joined the mayor in introducing a digital roadmap, one of the first digital roadmaps that a city in the United States has introduced that shows our path for how we're going to make New York City the best digital city that we can be. And our strategy is focused on access to technology, open government, engagement, and industry. So there's a few different points there that we touch upon. Industry is important because we need to make sure that the private sector has all the supports it needs to grow and thrive and help to create these solutions that will help the government ultimately to better serve the public. Open government's important because if our data and our internal structure and priorities aren't completely open, we're not going to be able to enable that kind of increased services, that kind of exchange of information, et cetera. Engagement is crucial because we need to be constantly gathering feedback from the public, informing and serving. And access is the foundation because everyone needs access to these technologies. So what does data-driven innovation look like in the city of New York? So first, a quick look at how data evolves government. It's pretty obvious, especially to this crowd. What it enables us to do is be more efficient, more effective, more responsive to real-time needs. Adds objectivity, although as everyone knows, data can be manipulated. But above all, we have a very data-driven government in the city of New York. We are measurement-oriented, we are results-oriented, and that has helped the city government to really thrive. And in a digital context, this is interesting because we see these data initiatives across the city right now from the MTA's bus time initiative, for instance, which runs on the M16 and the M34 line. Initially, it was scoped out to cost hundreds of millions of dollars. The MTA ended up working with a local open source development shop, did it for a fraction of that, below $1 million, and now you can get real-time updates on your phone based on where the buses are located using very low-cost technologies. We're also using data internally to do things like evaluating and looking for indicators that might suggest certain properties that we should be aware of are potentially going to lead to things like fires because of a combination of building code violations, multifamily dwellings, things like that. But in terms of what NYC Digital, the office that I'm a part of, what does this really mean for how we are using data in a digital context to see how we're engaging with the public? So first of all, our digital reach today, it's about 4 million people. That includes nyc.gov, as well as social media channels. And the social media channels are doing everything from the 311 Twitter feed is enabling people to get real-time information about where they can report their problem, or perhaps here's the way to resolve what you're looking for, directing people to the right resources, acting as a kind of digital switchboard. That means they don't have to pick up the phone. They don't even have to use the new 311-692 text messaging service. Another social media platform where we're serving people, for instance, on Facebook, the health department started an NYC Quit Smoking channel that enables individuals, that's become a support group for people who are quitting smoking. And what we're really seeing that's interesting about all of these things is they're happening in public, and so people are informing one another. They're engaging one another, and it's not so much the city telling you what to do, but creating a forum for that conversation to take place. But this is fantastic, but again, 200 plus social media channels means that we need to really look at what we're doing, and we need to make sure that we're allocating our resources where they need to be going. The city's website, which we will soon be, we're embarking right now on the redesign and relaunch of that website, has probably over 1 million pages. We're still in the process of quantifying because there are many disparate domains. But there's a lot there, and there's a lot that we need to do to make sure that we're being responsible about how we're allocating all of those resources. So what are we using? We're using analytics. These are the analytics actually from during Irene, the recent hurricane, tropical storm that came to New York that shows the extent of the visits to our website, where people were coming from. We're also using social media metrics to make sure that those 200 plus social media channels all should really be there, are all really serving the public. This shows, for instance, that over the past week, we've increased by more than 5,000, or just about 5,000 followers across all of our channels. And we recently introduced Bitly. We have the city's own Bitly shortener on .nyc.gov, and we're using those metrics to see what are we sharing with the public and what is the public sharing with one another, so that we can see, what is really most useful and most interesting to people. And that's all great. But the thing that's really exciting to me, better than internal data, of course, is open data. And this, I think, is where we really start to reach the potential of New York City becoming a platform like some of the bigger commercial platforms and open data platforms, or just open API platforms that you may be familiar with. How can New York City, with all of the enormous amount of data and resources that we have, think of itself the same way Facebook has an API ecosystem, or Twitter does? And what this enables is this can enable us to produce a more user-centric experience of government. It democratizes the exchange of information and services. If someone wants to do a better job than we are in communicating something, it's possible, because it's all out there. It empowers citizens to collaboratively create solutions. It's not just the consumption, but the co-production of government services and democracy. And finally, New York City government, as Alistair was saying, we have such potential in terms of data in this city. We are dense, we are densely populated, we have enormous amount of activity and enormous amount of data. And the big question is, how can we really make sure that this is presented in a way that enables us to take advantage of the full extent of all of this? So above all, currently we have a range of open data initiatives at different states. We've got the NYC Data Mine, which you can find at nyc.gov/datamine, and we will soon be introducing NYC Platform, which is the city's API of its data, which we're incredibly excited about. But all of this doesn't matter if we're not evangelizing it and making sure that people are using it. So how are we doing this? Today, the city is going into its 3rd year of the NYC Big Apps competition. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with it, but it has been fantastic for the city. Essentially, we provide awards of about $25,000 to individuals who create apps powered by New York City data. To date, we've had over 150 apps developed. These are the kinds of apps that would be at significant cost to the city, and instead they're at basically no cost because the prize money is all donated. We provide 350 data sets. Until now, they were not API enabled. They were not dynamic, but we're going to be doing that because that's the overwhelming response that we're receiving from everyone. And we've had some really fantastic examples of what's created. So Roadify is a great one. It allows you to find parking spaces. It allows you to receive real-time updates on public transportation, maybe if there's a delay. And you can also receive crowdsourced updates about things like traffic. The FDR is really backed up. I would say, take the West Side, things like that. Another great one is Trees Near You. And Trees Near You uses data that perhaps people thought would have no utility. It was information. It was from the tree census. Well, it turns out it's pretty cool to be able to have an app that allows you to look at trees nearby and find out what their history is. When were they planted? What kind are they? Et cetera. And finally, Don't Eat At, which is always a crowd favorite. It's a Foursquare app, so you have to be on Foursquare. You go into Foursquare, you enable it, and if you check into a restaurant that is in danger of being closed because of health code violations, you get an alert. And this really shows that there's just new ways of presenting all of this information. So why does this matter? Irene was really incredible in terms of, in many ways, because first of all, we use an enormous amount of digital communications to inform the public, but especially from an open data perspective. So in the days leading up to Irene coming to New York, we had an enormous amount of traffic coming to nyc.gov, our website. And chiefly, people were coming to see the evacuation zone maps to see if they should be evacuating, because there was a mandatory evacuation for Zone A. Well, so many people came to the site that the site basically had trouble supporting the traffic, and there were many outages, and it was sort of a tough day for people trying to get that information. But meanwhile, in the day before that, leading up to this, we had recognized that these resources were going to be important, and we reached out to organizations like Crisis Commons and different groups that are usually involved in these kinds of open data initiatives related to crisis situations to make sure they knew about it. And fortunately, on that day, I'll use an example. We had a wide range of organizations that built their own evacuation zone maps using New York City data. And they were beautiful maps, and they were interactive, and they were visually engaging and really well done. Many of them were embeddable. We saw one from the New York Times. Google created one as part of that was also linked in and federated with all of the other national information. And the example that I'll use is the WNYC Hurricane Evacuation Zone map. So this was enabled by our data. What was fantastic is that basically their traffic far eclipsed the traffic to our evacuation zone map. And that's fine, because as long as the right information was getting to the citizens, that's all that matters. It's okay if it's decentralized as long as the reach is being expanded. They had an amazing time. Basically, they shattered their previous records of traffic from 2010 election night, more than doubled. They had something like a 65,000% increase in their server traffic over the period of the days leading up to Irene. Their simultaneous traffic, which they tracked on Chartbeat, was about 57 times what it typically is. And they also were embedded throughout a range of other sites. So this shows, I think this is one of the greatest possible proofs of concept for why it is important to make data open. And as a side note on the hurricane piece, this is the kind of data that 5 months ago you would have said, well, this is so ridiculous. I mean, hurricane zone evacuation maps, why would you ever need this? And it just goes to show that you never know and you have to allow for everything. Another great way that we are trying to engage with the technology community, and we've thankfully received a great response, is we held our first ever hackathon. And these are new concepts for government, and there are all kinds of rules and regulations that are there for very good reason that make it complicated to do things like hackathons, but we made it happen. And there's an enormous amount of support inside the city for these kinds of things. And basically the way it worked is over the course of 2 days, from July 30th to 31st, we had our first ever hackathon. It was part hackathon, part designathon, because we were inviting people to reimagine the future of nyc.gov, the city's website. And we had over 100 people join. We had people from the city. We had tech partners, the API evangelists of Google, Facebook, Meetup, Donors Choose, Bitly. And our goal was, again, to collaboratively imagine and build the future of nyc.gov. And you see some very happy people on these pictures. The way that we helped to equip everyone for this task was we provided them with web analytics data so that they knew what people were looking for on our website. And we provided them with access to our beta NYC platform, which is where we have the APIs for our data. We also had a number of people from the city come to present this new platform. It's going to be running on Strata and includes data visualization tools. And this was really helpful. And basically without this, and specifically without our 311 API, it would have been difficult for them to build interesting functional apps. Our 311 API, if you're not familiar with 311, it's really the customer service layer that sits on top of a lot of complicated bureaucracy within the city of New York for resolving problems. But it's done a wonderful job of, you have one point of contact, you call that number, and it will route you to the way to solve your problem. And now we're realizing maybe some people don't want to use the phone. Maybe it'll be faster sometimes to use different means. Maybe it's something that can be resolved online. So we're building out that API. Currently, it's in read format, and soon it'll be in write format as well. So who won the hackathon? Just to show what's possible. These are some of the winners. And just to give you a frame of reference, this was the website before. And if you do have ideas right now, constructive ideas about how we can improve our website, please feel free to tweet them with the hashtag #reinventnycgov. So this was our winner for best user interface, just to give a sense of what is possible, location-based customization. We also had a winner for best use of social. This platform was also great. They used both our API and the Google's translation API so that you could submit your queries in a range of different languages so that you could get responses in, I think, up to 3 different languages, which is something that's very important to us. And our website currently serves about 5 different languages, so this is going to be crucial. What was interesting is that this example, as well as the next one, use a question and answer format. And these are the kind of things that maybe we wouldn't have realized is how people want to engage and get information. They don't just want to search. They want to have this humanizing experience with government. They want to ask a question and get a response. And if we are able to take all of our responses and put them into, and our scripts for how we respond to citizen queries and requests, and put them into this API, you know, this can be happening on new websites. This can be happening on mobile applications. Oh, and a funny story about this particular example is that Mayor Bloomberg met with all of the winners of the hackathon. There were 5 different teams to thank them for what they had done, and they demoed their prototypes to him, and he said they're fantastic. He was very excited, but he did mention, you know, what I would really love is I'm often on the go, and I'll type something into my iPhone or my iPad because he loves his iPhone, loves his iPad. And you know, you misspell something and the autocorrect might not work. I would love to have a voice recognition way to search, you know, an audio search of nyc.gov and 311. And in true developer form, within 2 hours, we had 2 groups tweeting on Twitter, Mr. Bloomberg, Mayor Bloomberg, we went back and we hacked that together, and you can try it out right now, which is pretty incredible. This is the third example that I'll show. Again, the Q&A format where you ask a question. This seems to be a very popular one. What's the best place for my child to attend school? Usually the services question, it's either this or, you know, how can I take a picture of a pothole, geotag it and upload it, and send it to the government, which we do now on our 311 iPhone app. So this is just a range of what's possible now. And just in terms of the hackathon, I will sort of finish on this note that it was phenomenal for us to see what was built from the hackathon. We built great relationships with the tech community. We had government folks and tech folks talking, and we got an enormous amount of feedback on our 311 API. We got some great ideas that are now going to be guiding our redesign of nyc.gov. But one of the coolest things is that, you know, we can only hold so many hackathons, and we can only promote our data so much. But since we held that hackathon pretty recently, not 2 months ago, we've received a number of invitations to present the NYC data API at additional hackathons. And one of those included the Foursquare Global Hackathon that happened, I think, just last weekend, where because the city was there presenting the data, somebody created an accessibility app that overlays Foursquare venues with accessible locations throughout the city. So that's just an example. If you have interest in the data mine, I encourage you to please look at it, especially look at our platform. We're going to be launching it widely, and there's a wide range of places where you can get involved here, and we're hiring. So please go to on.nyc.gov/join Team Digital to learn more. Thank you so much, and enjoy today.